Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and the Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We've already started our coverage of All-Star Comics, the revived All-Star Comics, and Freedom Fighters, the ongoing series featuring some Golden Age superheroes. And there's another ongoing series that launches around this time, which Peter and I are going to cover, because it features some multiversal shenanigans and, a few Earth 2 characters involved pretty much throughout. And that series, of course, is the Secret Society of Supervillains.
Yes.
We start our coverage of that properly in a week or two. But before that, as we like to do, and as Peter especially likes to do, we're bringing you this week a collection of stories which kind of presents some alternatives to some of the characters who appear in Secret Society of Supervillains. Is that right, Peter?
It most certainly is. Yes, you guessed it. It's another Road to episode, Road to the Secret Society of Supervillains. Yes. Very, very exciting.
Awesome. With plenty villains to choose from, we're probably going to do a couple of these at various points because the cast of the comic shifts dramatically, and it's a Tomahawk story I've been agitating to do for years, so we'll get to that. We'll probably do that maybe halfway through the run of the series, because there's all sorts of interesting characters that pop up throughout Secret Society of Supervillains, many of whom have a Golden Age legacy aspect, and of course we're all about the Golden Age legacy aspect here at the Earth 2 podcast.
Woohoo.
So we're kicking off. Which of the first of the cast of the Secret Society of Supervillains are we going to be alluding to in our first story then, Peter?
Well, one of the main villains at the start of the Secret Society is, of course, the slinky snake-themed Copperhead. And in my research, I found a Golden Age villain called Copperhead.
Fantastic.
And you'll never guess who he went up against.
Shall we prolong the agony? Shall we tell them? Let me tell the listeners which comic we're reading from and see if they can...
Go for it.
Give them a moment or two to try and guess.
The Werewolf Break, sure.
Yes, we're reading a story from issue 15 of Sensation Comics, published on the 6th of January 1943. So, who was featuring in Sensation Comics? Who are we doing then, Pete?
Well, folks, this is the Earth 2 podcast debut of Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys.
The crowd goes crazy.
Wow.
Right, the question I always ask at these points, can you remember when you first encountered Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys?
Yes.
Oh, wow, good.
Yes, it was
when you researched and found issue 15 of Sensation Comics featuring Copperhead.
Not at all. It was in one of the bonus books that DC did in the late 80s. I think it was an issue of The Flash.
Right.
And it was almost like a pull-out kind of sampler.
Yeah, they did quite a lot of those sort of things, I remember. Lots of interesting writers and artists involved, yeah.
Weirdly, this is the only bonus book that I really remember, because I really enjoyed the story and I wish they'd done something with the characters.
Right.
But that was I think it was the son or the descendant of the original Little Boy Blue.
Yeah, I think it's the son.
It's been a while since I read it, but yeah, it was hugely entertaining, and I thought, this is great, let's have more adventures of these guys, and they never did.
Wow.
It was very much in the style of the Joe Simon, Jack Kirby Street Gang, except with a slightly smaller cast and some colourful costumes.
We'll maybe put a few highlight panels from that up on the socials this week then, because there's not a huge amount of content for the Golden Age stories. That's interesting. I can't remember.
Oh, well.
I've got a feeling...
It was when I said, do you want to do a Little Boy Blue story?
Yeah. No, I've got a feeling like, do they pop up in one of the All-Star Squadron crowd scenes? I can't remember. We'll have to keep an eye out for that when we get there.
I can't remember offhand.
I've got a feeling it might have been there, or... Because I don't think they were on the covers of any of the early issues of Young All-Stars, which is where I scoped to quite a few characters for the first time. I don't remember. Listeners, can you remember when you first encountered Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys? Please write in and let us know. Peter will tell you where to address your missives later in the stories. So, are we going to worry about the cover of Sensation Comics number 15?
The cover features Wonder Woman, so it's not really pertinent to her interests. So,
is she getting up to mischief?
She's basically bending the guns of a battleship so that they can't be fired.
Amazing.
And of course, the enemy sailors are aghast at this.
I would hope so too.
Yes, their hats are flying off and everything.
Blimey. On that bombshell. Right.
Literal bombshell.
Yes. Gosh, how exciting. But no, we're reading the Little Boy Blue story, and the story begins. There's a mild spoiler actually in the opening splash image. How to describe their costumes. They sort of look a little bit like medieval page boys sort of wearing hoods. There's one of the boys who's sort of, shall we say, has a bit of a tummy on him, and he's called Tubby. There's another boy who's skinny and a bit rougher looking. He gets called Tuffy, Toughy. And our leader, Little Boy Blue, his boots are sort of red with the yellow sort of cuffs. He has yellow sleeves under his short blue sleeves, and he wears a little sort of blue hood with a little red curl or something coming out the back of it.
Yes.
And we see them all in the opening large splash image, which takes up 2/3 of the first page, and Tubby is carrying a flag which has Little Boy Blue written on it, and Tuffy is banging a little drum, which he has hanging around his shoulder. He's got the drumsticks there. And we can see a large sort of kick bass drum sort of thing on the floor in front of them. And there's a man in a suit who's been sort of shoved head first into that. Well, that's quite amusing. I can think of a few touring crew members that we would like to have done that to over the years. And Little Boy Blue is blowing his horn. And he's singing. And on lunch yesterday, Peter tried to work out a melody for this, and I just left him to it. And he's going to sing that to you now.
Oh, we track him down, we crack him down. When we persuade him they can't refuse. If a racketeer we nail, you'll find him in the jail, singing the Little Boy Blues.
Well done, Peter.
There you go.
Listeners, if you have your own version of, obviously this panel will make it to the socials, so if you want to record your own version and send it in, then please do so, but we cannot guarantee that we'll listen to them. So, a caption, of course, leads us into the story.
When Little Boy Blue blows his horn, the Blue Boys get together and wham into whatever case District Attorney Dan Rogers is having trouble with. But what the DA doesn't know is that the Blue Boy is his own son, Tommy.
We're outside the Rogers house. Mr. Rogers looks very smart. He has a moustache, dark hair, very, very smart suit. And he and Mrs. Rogers are leaving for the evening. They're going out. Tommy's at the door seeing them off. Mrs. Rogers has blonde hair. It's kind of short, curled and up. And as they leave, Mr. Rogers is saying,
I'm sorry, Tommy. You can't come with us tonight. We'll be out much too late for a boy your age.
And Tommy, disappointed, wails,
Ah, gee, Dad.
A few minutes later, after the District Attorney and Mrs. Rogers leave...
Tommy sat in a big chair. Looks very comfortable, but we see a hand tapping at the window. Tommy thinks,
Doggone it. Don't see why... Hey, who's that? Ah, Tuffy.
Tuffy, much more of a sort of rougher-looking street kid. Obviously, he doesn't have the same sort of privileged background. He's poking the window because he's got a little cap on. He looks very much like Scrapper from the Newsboy Legion. And he's saying, What's eating you, chum? You look down in the mouth.
Ah, they're giving Dad a big testimonial dinner at the Eastern Country Club, and they wouldn't let me go along.
Tuffy, perched on the window ledge now as if he's climbing in, replies, That's tough, Tommy. Tell you what, I'll sneak into this banquet and tell you about it afterwards. How about it?
Better than nothing, Tuffy. Thanks. And I can listen to my dad's speech on the radio.
Half an hour later...
Yeah, we can see Tommy with the wireless, a nice crackly speech bubble as a voice says, Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the man who needs no introduction in Big City, Dan Rogers, our two-fisted district attorney. Doesn't Dan Rogers, District Attorney, sound like a strip from Detective Comics or Adventure Comics or something? And then you would do some digging and find out that he fought someone called Matter Eater Lad.
Yes, perfect. Do you know what? Funny you should say that.
When we write our own DC comic, there's another slow dissolve.
At the Eastern Country Club...
Yes, we see Tuffy sort of skulking in the bushes underneath a sort of pillared veranda. He can hear some men in suits having a conversation above him. He kind of says to himself, Gee, what kind of talk is that? And we see that there are three men here in suits. One is a slightly unusual pointy face. It's the only way I can sort of describe him. We'll try and find a panel that's got a good shot of him for the caption slide for this episode so you can see him. And he's saying to his friends, Remember, we don't pull the big job till after the cops get here. This Dan Rogers has been getting in my hair. And we see this chap and his colleagues making their way back into the party, and the gun at the back, we can see he's a bit of a baldy napper, like my own self. He says,
Dan Rogers won't be district attorney long after we stick up the whole crowd right under the cops' noses.
This prompts Tuffy to go, Huh? With a giant question mark. There's another slow dissolve and another caption.
After the speeches, the dancing begins, while Eagle-Eye Tuffy watches.
Yes, we can see Tuffy sort of lurking outside. Very good panel here, because he's sort of lit in shadow, and everyone inside is brightly coloured and stuff. It's very impressive. We can see a number of people in their smart jackets and beautiful dresses dancing under the flashing lights. It's lovely. And Tuffy thinks to himself, I should have watched those guys closer. There's so many in there with monkey jackets, I can't tell which one I saw out here. Then a caption reads,
Down in front of the bandstand, where Tuffy can't see.
and we see that the man with the pointy face, with the goons who we saw standing outside, is actually conducting the band that's playing. And that the bald chap who was out in the patio situation with him is playing violin in the band. Gasp! And dancing quite close to the violinist. It's a very tall, thickly set woman with white hair, and she's dancing with a much smaller little man. I suppose, they had to make do during the war, didn't they? And as they dance closer to the violinist, the man with the pointy face leans in towards his friend and says, Quick, Beans, there's your chance. And Beans, spotting what the large lady is wearing round her neck, enunciates,
Poils.
Yes, he spotted her pearls, listeners, because in the final panel of this page we see that he's using his violin bow to reach forward and unhook the pearls from around the woman's neck.
Gasp.
He exclaims,
Got him.
and that takes us to the top of page 3, where a caption reads,
A few minutes later.
and the little man who was dancing with the large lady notices that the woman's necklace has vanished. He says, Mrs. Moneybox, your pearls are gone.
My pearls! They're gone! My $50,000 pearls! Call the police!
See, Tuffy is still lurking in the background, hiding behind a curtain at this point, and he, again, reacts, and then we see him running as he says, Gosh, a robbery right under my nose! I should never try to handle this thing alone. And we see him now back at Tommy's place, and he's saying to Tommy, I'm on my way to get my Blue Boy suit. There's trouble at the Eastern Country Club. Blow that little boy blue horn.
Huh? Okay.
In the next panel, we see Tommy is now in costume as Little Boy Blue. He's outside. See some plants and stuff. And that looks like the moon to me.
Way.
I think it's a massive full moon looming behind Tommy, so make sure you take a drink. And as Little Boy Blue blows his horn, we cut to one of his friends in bed, woken up by the sound, who exclaims,
Uh-oh, that means we go to work.
and that's Tubby, who we only saw previously in the cover. And the next panel, Tubby is swinging down from the branch of a tree to join Tommy and Tuffy. And Tubby says,
Where to?
The Eastern Country Club, yells Tuffy. And Tommy, Little Boy Blue, says,
This means a lot to my dad. I hope we're in time.
and we see the boys are now standing underneath a traffic light, which is helpfully stopped to right. There's also a full moon, so take a drink, as a large car approaches, and Tuffy observes it and says, Here comes a car going our way, which leads to Tubby saying,
You'll have to stop for the red traffic light. And when the light turns green again...
Yes, you see the boys have climbed into the sort of storage trunk box that's on the back of the car. Cars don't really have them anymore, do they? I don't know. And the boys are all poking at the back of this box, and Tommy, Little Boy Blue, says,
If this guy only knew who he was carrying.
and then we see that Tuffy has a bit of a grumpy expression in his face because it looks so Tubby sat on him. Tuffy is saying, get off me hand. He's Irish all of a sudden. Brilliant.
In the meantime, at the country club...
Yes, we see the band are still playing away on stage, and the chap with the pointy face is still conducting, and we hear him saying, I hear the cops' sirens, boys. As soon as they get in, cover all the doors and make sure those flat feet don't interfere.
The police arrive to take over, and the bandit band takes them over.
Yes, we see the band have all suddenly pulled guns. The chap with the pointy face had pulled a big Tommy gun machine gun with a big round cylinder. Some police run in, and the chap with the pointy face, who will get his name in a second, listeners, if you haven't worked out what it is yet, says, Check your guns at the door, coppers. And a couple of police look startled. One of them cries,
Hey!
you see them all raising their hands, and one of the other goons in the band says,
And keep your big traps shut.
There's a shot of the crowd, and we see Mr. and Mrs. Rogers reacting as our pointy-faced baddie continues, Don't none of your cops try to start anything, Mr. District Attorney, or we'll mow down a row of these innocent bystanders. Mr. Rogers steps forward, saying,
Don't move, men.
And pointy-faced guy says, Okay, now you good people file up here and leave all your valuables with us. No monkey business or we cut loose the lead. We see Mr. Rogers as he gets to the front of the queue, and he says,
What do you think you gain by having the police witness this monstrous crime?
Simple, Mr. District Attorney. Now we know nobody else will butt in here during our little séance. And a more personal reason. I'm teaching you a lesson, Rogers, by showing the people of Big City how powerless you really are against the superintelligence of the Copperhead. Yes, that's who he is, listeners. He is the Copperhead. and rather than being dressed in a big snake costume, he's a pointy face, a weird pointy face, and he conducts a band that robs people. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Rogers looks appalled and reacts with a giant comedy question mark, and then a caption reads,
What is it that D.A. Dan Rogers sees from the corner of his eye up on the balcony surrounding the dance floor?
Up on the balcony, Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys have arrived. Tuffy, Tubby and Tommy, with Tuffy saying, Cocky son of a gun, ain't he? Shh, as Tommy then says,
We've got the lay of the land from up here. Now, let's break this party up.
A minute later,
and we see the big bass drum on the stage and a hand reaching from behind it to grab a trumpet that's balanced on a table. And we hear a voice thinking,
Come to Papa.
That's Tommy, of course, Little Boy Blue. In the next panel, he's leapt forward and shoved the trumpet right into the face of the Copperhead, and he plays it with a... Well done, Peter.
Okay.
Impressive. Yeah. Little Boy Blue ducks away as Copperhead reaches for him, saying, It's that Little Boy Blue! Cut him down! Tommy spins back around and jumps forward, grabbing Copperhead by the waist, knocking him to the ground, crying,
Cut me down, hey, Copperhead? What do you take me for, a tree?
And we see up on the balcony, Tubby has a tray with a few bottles of beer or wine or something on them, and he tips them off the balcony so all the bottles land on the heads of some of Copperhead's goons. As he does this, Tubby cries,
Here you are, felons. The drinks are on the house.
Amazing. And then he jumps off the balcony in the next panel, looking as if he's going to jump his full weight onto one of the goons, saying,
Seems like somebody ought to take charge of those guns. They ain't safe just floating around.
We see in the background that Tuffy, he's got a trombone. And he, right, challenge extended, Peter. Mm-hmm. And he blows into the trombone. And whatever the bit that you hold on to in a trombone that you don't, the noise doesn't come out. Slide. All right. Ooh, not bad. The slide has slid forward and KO'd another couple of goons, making them drop their gun, prompting Tuffy to quip, This song sure made a hit.
But the Copperhead is a slippery customer.
Yes, because he's grabbed a hold of Little Boy Blue and he's holding him up. He's also got a gun probably. See Mr. Rogers holding the police back from trying to make a grab for them as Copperhead says, Hold still, every one of you. Let me and my gang go or I'll break this kid's neck. Yes, he's got his arm around Little Boy Blue's neck. Terrifying. Mr. Rogers says,
Let them go. Let them go. I'd rather have that gang loose than have a hair of one of those courageous Blue Boys' heads hurt.
Gosh.
But the Blue Boys themselves don't take that kind of stuff.
You see that Tuffy and Tubby have grabbed the massive bass drum and they've thrown it forward, with Tubby saying,
Try this bass drum on for size, will you, Copperhead?
But Copperhead steps backwards so that the drum, instead of hitting him, collides with Little Boy Blue with a boom, and he falls on the ground with a thump. As Copperhead quips, Your kid tricks won't work on me.
The Copperhead dives through the French window, races to a waiting car.
Yes, we see the window shattering with a as Copperhead legs it, saying, You haven't seen the last of me.
In the following confusion, Tubby and Tuffy rescue Tommy from the drum.
Let me out of this.
Says Little Boy Blue as Tubby says,
Are you all right, Tommy?
We see them pulling the drum off him. Very, very amusing. Hopefully there's room for this panel on the socials. Tuffy saying, Everything's under control. Let's lamb. Then we see the three boys running from the place in the next panel with Tommy saying,
Something on that drum clipped me right in the eye.
To which Tubby says,
Must have been the foot pedal. Tough luck, Tommy.
I hate when that happens. And then we have a slow dissolve.
Next morning.
Breakfast time in the Rogers house. Mr. and Mrs. Rogers and Tommy, a.k.a. Little Boy Blue, sat around the table with Mr. Rogers saying,
I'm sorry I didn't take you to that banquet, Tommy. Those boys in blue.
Then Tommy replies,
Yeah, Dad, I read about them in the paper.
Mrs. Rogers says in the next panel, By the way, Tommy, how did you say you got that black eye? And we see it as an absolute shiner. And as Mr. Rogers seems to be indulging in a postmodern wink to the camera, Tommy replies to his mum saying,
Oh, I just ran into the door in my room in the dark last night. Doorknob, you know, hit me in the eye.
Mr. Rogers is unconvinced, as am I. And then a caption closes things out saying,
What an old excuse for a black eye. Does D.A. Dan Rogers suspect that his son is the leader of the Blue Boys? Well, whether he does or not, the Blue Boys will be back every month with more adventures in Sensation Comics.
And that essentially means we have reached
the end.
Gosh. Well, that was interesting. I don't think we've had evil... Have we had... Oh, we have had evil musicians, actually, because we did a
fiddlers
episode a while ago.
All the fiddlers.
Yes.
The murdery fiddlers, some of them.
The fiddler will return. A fiddler will return before too long, listeners.
Yes.
Very interesting. yeah, I mean, you can kind of see why he was called Copperhead. It's obviously a kind of cruel nickname because he wasn't the most handsome of chaps.
No, very true. Kind of very, I don't want to say snake-like features, but yeah, just the way his face was projected forward, the way like the skull of a snake's.
Yes.
It's very, evocative of that imagery. But sadly not wearing any kind of snake suits. He's wearing a sharp suit, but not a snake suit.
Peter lamenting there that he's not in costume. No, agreed. It's a shame, but it's really interesting. I liked how for 6 pages they pack an awful lot in.
Yeah.
And obviously the very amusing name from the lady who gets stung at the start, Mrs. Many Bucks. Manny Bucks, Many Bucks. Yes, yeah. She has many bucks.
Yeah. No, it's a great fun story. Again, it's just, fun is the word for this. I mean, the Little Boy Blue stories, I've not read a huge amount of them. And I haven't been able to find another appearance by this Copperhead, so it looks like he does get away.
Right. Or else maybe they catch up with him and kill him and it's just told off camera. Or maybe he gets scooped up and maybe he falls through a porthole into a parallel other dimension and lands straight in a snake pit or a tar pit or a volcano or something. I don't know. Or
maybe he does travel to Earth 1 and find a snake suit, or make it snake suit, and he is the same Copperhead.
Let's leave a pause for the listeners to contemplate that. I think you've nailed it. That's obviously what happens. Because we're not given a real name from here, are we?
Nope, that's
true.
There
we go. There we are.
Very
Multiverse Historian, if you're still listening, please let us know if you've done anything on Copperhead, and we'll retweet and share it.
There was one scene in this I want to comment on. The scene where Copperhead takes Little Boy Blue hostage and uses him as a human shield reminds me of the scene at the end of Beverly Hills Cop, where Victor Maitland, played brilliantly by Stephen Berkoff.
Your best friend.
Yes, I'm getting to that. Where he grabs Jenny and uses her as a human shield. And Eddie Murphy's like trying to get a beat in him. And of course, Victor Maitland, Stephen Berkoff says, "Careful, Foley, you might hit me." And last weekend, at time of recording, I was down in Milton Keynes, of all places.
Milton Keynes, the butt of so many jokes if you're a British comedian in the 90s.
Yes. It was for a Comic-Con, and Stephen Berkoff was there. And I actually spoke to him briefly. He's 88 now, he's getting on a fair bit. But I spoke to him briefly and said that was one of my favourite scenes, and that line is one of my favourite lines in all of cinematic history. "Careful, Foley, you might hit me." And I recounted it back to him like that, and I realised I was doing a Stephen Berkoff impersonation to Stephen Berkoff, who I think is possibly one of the most intimidating people I've ever encountered. And he laughed at that and said to me that actually wasn't in the script. Because of the type of movie it was, they were encouraged to do quite a lot of like improv lines and things and basically reduce what they thought were the best takes, especially with Eddie Murphy being involved. And they thought that was hilarious, and they added it into the final cut of the movie.
Excellent.
So, yeah, writer, producer, actor, director, Stephen Berkoff legend, wrote that line. So
cool.
Brilliant, yeah.
I have to say, he's someone I've heard of, but I probably haven't seen Beverly Hills Cop in 40 years. I don't think I've seen much else to really have the context of him. I was reminded of Tail End of the Dead Zone when Martin Sheen grabs the baby and uses him as a human shield. It's always it's always a sign when someone's a wrong'un, when they're quite happy to put a child at risk.
Yes.
So obviously this Copperhead could have been justified in being a member of the Secret Society of Supervillains as well, because he's obviously a nasty chap.
Yes, although he does have some mean conducting skills.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's quite an interesting thing as well, using your dance band as a front for robbing the rich. Gosh.
I do like how Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys use musical instruments as part of their weaponry in this story.
Yeah, it kind of shows how clever they are at sort of thinking on their feet and stuff. And if, the Little Boy Blue blows his horn and all such things, it ties into that very neatly. It's very neat, I think, is the key word for this story.
Yeah.
It works very, very well. Very, very enjoyable. Yeah, and we've just solved the Copperhead conundrum that we didn't even know we were going to even attempt to do, so that's marvellous.
The Copperhead conundrum.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions.
Yes.
Well, Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys return on the podcast. Who can say? Peter Watson can say, because he's probably going to check every single one of the other stories.
I'll find this Copperhead again.
See if they fought anyone called Captain Boomerang or something. I don't know. Right, so that is the first of this week's stories. What's next? And our second story is one that's been on the cards for quite a long time. Peter wanted to do this a while ago, and I was kind of like, it's a bit random, but then we realised that this episode would be the perfect fit.
It absolutely would, yes, because another key member of the early Secret Society of Supervillains is, of course, everyone's favourite simian,
King Kong.
Everyone's second favourite simian, Gorilla Grodd.
Of course.
Oh, love Gorilla Grodd.
I heard that rumour.
I started it.
Yes.
Gorilla Grodd, of course, comes from a city of super evolved apes, and that city is called Gorilla City. So we're now going to play for you the song Gorilla City by the band Ukla the Mock. Oh, sorry, we couldn't get the rights to that. It's a great song. But
is that
guys,
a real thing?
It is actually, yeah.
Wow. Maybe we'll play out with it at the end of the episode. Maybe Kenny could press play and listen to it himself. Anyway, yes, we are reading a story from issue 6 of Congo Bill, published on the 21st of April, 1955. And this is delightful because the cover and the opening splash image are pretty much identical. Peter will now describe the cover for us.
In the corner, Superman, National Comics, DC logo, 10 cents, all new stories, June, July, number 6, approved by the Comics Code Authority.
Thank goodness for that.
Congo Bill, with Janu, the Jungle Boy,
Is the header at the top, and underneath that it says,
featuring Gorilla City.
yes, we're in a kind of a bamboo dwelling. There is a table with a bowl in it that looks like some sort of porridge, an alarm clock. And sitting behind this table is a gorilla. And he's pointing at Congo Bill, our hero, our pith-helmeted adventurer, with his arms bound behind him in rope, and his sidekick, Janu, the Jungle Boy, who is a young boy in a loincloth, because, you know, that's the jungle look.
Well, you would know.
Yes, he's also bound. And he's looking round at some gorillas that are standing behind him, one of whom has got like a cine camera up and is filming them.
Oh my God, the mind boggles.
And the gorilla sitting behind the table is pointing at Congo Bill, as I said, and he's saying, "You may untie the prisoners. I think they realise escape is futile." And Congo Bill's thinking,
Great guns. These gorillas act and speak exactly like humans.
and as we said, that's exactly the same as the splash page for this story. However, there is some extra text.
Yes. Now, listeners, I'm reading along from my copy of The Greatest 1950s Stories Ever Told, which features a reprint of the story. It's a very handy tome because it also reprinted that Green Arrow story we did a while ago and that Tommy Tomorrow story we did a while ago. So Steve Montgomery encouraging me to buy this in The Greatest Golden Age Stories that fateful morning back in the tail end of 1991 was very useful.
Thank you, Steve. If you're
Thanks,
listening.
Steve. If you're listening, hope you're well. Hope we see you soon. So what's interesting is that the colouring in this book is different, and I think all the stories are very different to what was originally published. So,
Yeah.
But hopefully nothing too significant to change the measure of the story will have taken place. I think it just all looks a bit more gloomy and moody. So as Pete said, the opening splash image is basically identical to the cover. The gorillas, instead of being shaded a sort of browny grey sort of colour, they're all, in this opening splash image at least, it's a very deep blue, and Janu's skin is significantly darker.
Yeah.
Almost purple than it is in the original printing, where he's basically sort of Caucasian, sort of white, sort of skin tone. So it's all very interesting. Won't dwell too much on that sort of stuff. But as Pete says, it's the same setup: big gorilla with a bowl in front of him and an alarm clock, with Congo Bill and Juno with their arms bound behind them, and a large caption leads us into the story.
This is a story that has never been told before, and, as you shall see why, it will never be told again.
Apart from it's reprinted in the greatest 1950 stories.
Yes.
It springs from deepest, darkest Africa, from where so many tales of strange adventure have sprung. But none before and none yet to come will equal in bizarre adventure this fantastic tale, in which Congo Bill and Janu the Jungle Boy find themselves prisoners in Gorilla City.
So just to reiterate, to set the scene, the gorilla behind the table is saying,
"You may untie the prisoners. I think they realise escape is futile."
and Congo Bill is once again thinking, great guns! These gorillas act and speak exactly like humans. And then we get into the story properly with another caption.
A stream, rippling and sighing, twists its way through night jungles, seemingly the only moving thing in a slumbering green world. Suddenly, in the dark canopy of sky above, there appears a blue-white light, and the animals of the jungle kingdom spring to life in a panic.
Yes, we see this white blue light arcing through the sky. And then we also see an antelope and a zebra and a cheetah and a giraffe. They must all be hanging about together, all sort of legging it. And then in the next panel, there is more captioning.
On the bank of a nearby stream, where they have pitched camp for the night, Congo Bill, Janu the Jungle Boy, and Chota the Chimp watch the galloping parade of frightened creatures sweep past them.
Yes, we see there's a rhino and an elephant as well now. I'm not sure if all these animals live in the same continent. Someone who knows such things can write in and let us know. And we see our heroes silhouetted in the foreground, standing outside their tent as Janu cries,
Congo Bill, did you see it? The light in the sky?
Of course, Janu. It was a shooting star. Not actually a star, but a meteor that flashes its way through the skies. Perfectly harmless.
Nice big words. Janu understands nothing. But as long as you say it's all right, then it's all right.
Congo Bill kneels down as he's saying, But wild animals know nothing of astronomy either, Janu, so they get frightened. As for us, let's put more wood in the fire to keep away the lions. Let's get some sleep.
Janu sleep, yes, and dream of shooting stars.
Janu standing there with Chota the chimp clinging to his leg. Oh, we have another slow dissolve.
Then at dawn, when the three friends break camp...
See Congo Bill pouring some water on the fire to put it out, very sensible. Tent's been taken down. Janu's packing it away, and we see that they're being watched by some kind of simian creature perched on a tree high above them. Congo Bill is saying, I've been commissioned to search this area for uranium ores, so we must get an early start.
Uranium. That's something else Janu knows nothing about. But Congo Bill says it's important, so Janu tag along.
Where are Janu's parents? Has that story ever been told? I don't know. Anyway.
Suddenly, from the shadowy foliage, appear ominous, long-armed figures.
Yes, the boys have been surrounded by some gorillas. Gosh, Congo Bill points out the obvious as he says, a nice way to start off a day. We're surrounded by gorillas.
Janu not know stars and Janu not know strange ores, but he knows gorillas. Janu talk to them.
Unafraid, the Jungle Boy steps forth to face the great beasts.
Yes, and then a great challenge to Peter's acting. Janu says,
Unlike Akak Dasa Motwa.
And Chota, hanging off Janu's back, cries, Cheep, 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 cheep.
But as the massive creatures continue to close in...
Yes, Chota continues to cry, Cheep, cheep, as he pounds on the head of one of the gorillas that has grabbed Janu. And we see Congo Bill grabbed from behind by one of the other gorillas, and it knocks his helmet slightly askew, terrifying, as Bill cries, The peace party didn't work, Janu. It's war.
And soon the jungle friends find themselves completely helpless in the face of the brute strength of their attackers.
Yes, we see that one of the gorillas has picked up their sleeping kit. Bill articulates for us as he thinks, What's this? Gorillas? Tying our hands behind us? I've never come across animals that smart. And indeed we see the gorillas using ropes to tie their arms behind their back. Gosh.
Securely bound, the prisoners are marched up a jungle trail.
Yes, nice silhouette panel of them on the march. Janu saying,
Dashing dear, I told them we were friends, that we meant no harm. Janu no understand why they take us.
There are a lot of things I don't understand about these gorillas. They seem almost human.
After a lengthy forced march, they arrive at a village surrounded by a strong palisade.
Yes, it's evident that the gorillas or something has cleared the area of where this fence and enclosure has been set up. We can see lots of tree stumps in the ground, and it looks as part of the ground is burnt and damaged because Janu points out,
Look at how earth is charred in this one section outside the village. Why?
I'm worried about other puzzling things right now. I'm wondering why they've captured us. That's not like them, says Bill as they led closer to the enclosure.
But inside the staked wall comes the most startling surprise of all.
We can see that a number of little huts and houses have been built, prompting Bill to say, Janu, this entire village is occupied by gorillas.
Gorilla come down from tree, now lives in house.
And Bill looks around as he sees something very startling that Peter mentioned when he was talking about the cover. As Bill says, Do you see what I see? 2 gorillas have cameras and are taking pictures of us. And indeed, 2 gorillas appear to be operating little cine cameras. Janu remarks,
Janu go to sleep again and wake up to find it all bad dreams.
That's a great idea, Janu. There's another slow dissolve.
And in front of the main hut, before the leader of the gorillas...
Yes, we see the head of the gorillas has sat at the table, eating from a bowl with a spoon. How civilised. Bill is brought before him. Gorilla says,
Ah, I see you've brought in the prisoners. Excellent. Untie them. I think they realise escape is futile.
Bill is astonished. You can speak?
Of course we can speak. As for speaking your language, it was a simple matter to pick up your voices on a radio and translate at will. In your presence, we'll converse in your language.
There's a sudden ring sound effect from behind. The gorilla leader turns distracted by it and says,
Confound that alarm clock! Who set it off?
One of the other gorillas walks out holding a small red traditional-looking alarm clock, and he's saying, I had it set for 4, sir. Isn't that when you wanted to be awakened?
4, yes. But I said 4 a.m., not p.m.
Well, that's him told. The guerrilla leader continues in the first panel of page 5.
Meanwhile, let's continue with my dinner. Keep our guests confined in one of the huts for now. The press may want to interview them.
Bill is astonished again. He's having a very surprising day. He says, radios? Alarm clocks? Cameras? Interviews? No, I know I've got jungle fever.
Wait, before you go.
And the guerrilla leader holds something up.
This is your gun belt. Why didn't you attempt to use it on my men?
I hardly ever use a gun, so I didn't even think of it. Secondly, it's broken and useless.
Fetch Arn. Arn is remarkably clever with mechanisms,
says the guerrilla leader, and there's another slow dissolve and another caption.
Another guerrilla ambles up, takes the gun in hand, and...
We see the guerrilla leader and this new arrival sat at the table, and the new arrival has what looks like some kind of tool in his hand, and he's dismantled the pistol. Seems to be working on it, as the leader watches him and says,
Arn seems to have a natural affinity for mechanisms. That's why he is along with us. He can repair a mechanism he has never seen before. Observe.
Within a few minutes...
As Bill and Jano look on, the guerrilla leader holds up the pistol and fires it into the air with a bang, and he says,
It works again.
He puts the gun back in its holster and hands the belt to Bill, saying,
There, your weapon is repaired. You may have your gun belt back. I know you'll do no harm with it.
Later, in a guarded hut...
Jano, Shota and Bill standing in the hut. We can see there's a little stool, there's a bed, a shield and some spears, all leaning up against the wall. What looks like a guard outside, a guerrilla guard outside, as Jano is saying.
They untied us, gave your gun back. Jano think they mean no harm. But who are they? Why do they act human?
I've heard of weird things happening to wild animals after A-bomb tests, but no such tests were held anywhere near here.
Jano know. Maybe they're trained gorillas.
No, that's not the answer. A gorilla might be trained to do a few tricks, but no one yet has taught a whole colony of them to do what these gorillas are doing. There's a faint possibility that some scientists stepped up evolution by some method, and no, that's too crazy. Uh-oh. Interview time. Here comes the press. One of the gorillas walks in, something in his hand, and this gorilla says, No, we're not the reporters. There's no time now for interviews. We have orders to return you to our leader at once. Too bad. There goes my chance to get my name in the papers.
A short while later...
Guerrilla leader still sat at his table in the shade. Bill and the others brought before him. The guerrilla leader says,
It grows late, and we wish to be gone before the 2 moons are out. Now I will tell you why we brought you here. We were here once before, with a metal box containing a complete record of our history and our sciences. We had hoped to show it to your people, but later decided not to. Meanwhile, the box was lost. We came back to find it, and we need your help. The jungle has grown thick over the box, but you 3 are of the jungle, and you know its ways. But beware, because the metal in the box is radioactive.
That's all right. A Geiger counter can locate anything radioactive, and I happen to have one for my uranium search.
Excellent. Please start at once. We have but a few hours left,
says the guerrilla leader, holding up the alarm clock. Bill replies, I'll get the Geiger counter from my equipment and start the search immediately.
Afterwards, with the Geiger counter directing them, the 3 friends of the jungle enter a klopf, a long, narrow ravine.
Yes, we see Bill and Jano and a couple of silhouetted gorillas making their way. Bill is carrying a box which is making a large tick, 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 tick sound effect, so that's his Geiger counter. Bill's sweeping it around, scanning the ground in front of him, and he says, The counter is reacting violently. The box must be buried right here. The guerrilla leader steps forward and says,
Then stand back. We'll get the box.
And we see that one of the others has a spade. They've obviously dug the box up as the guerrilla leader continues.
Radioaction does not harm us as it does you. Yes, you were right. Here it is.
And the gorilla with a shovel in the background says, We leave you now. Do not follow. We bid you adieu. They know French? Wow.
Who doesn't?
Me. Anyway.
A moment later, when the friends are alone...
Yes, great moody shot of Bill, Jano, and the chimp as Bill says, Jano, I think I've got the solution to those amazing gorillas. It's the only possible answer.
Yes? And what is it?
Bill strokes his chin thoughtfully. The shooting star we saw last night. The charred ground near the village. The leader mentioning not 1 moon, but 2. Then, there's their lack of knowledge about our weapons. The boys start to run, Jano saying,
But why did they change their minds about showing the contents of the box?
They think because people have weapons they must be unfriendly. We've got to convince them otherwise. Come on, we must hurry. Time's running out.
But upon reaching the village once more, a staggering sight greets their eyes as a giant rocket ship roars skyward.
Yes, proper 50s sci-fi long rocket ship taking off. A cloud of dust behind it. It's red in the original, sort of purpley blue and carefully rendered and lit in the reprint. As it takes off, Jano shields his eyes and says,
"Look, Congo Bill, the shooting star!"
"No, Jano, not a shooting star, but a craft from outer space. The gorillas were visitors from another world." See the boys look up at the sky as the vehicle flies off, with Bill saying, "The leader mentioned 2 moons. The planet Mars has 2 moons. They were Martians. This wasn't their village at all. But when they landed here, the natives fled in terror, and the gorillas simply took over."
At that instant, as a lone figure moves near one of the huts,
We see the silhouetted form of a gorilla as Jano says,
"Look, one of the Martians was left behind."
"Maybe he can contact the others. We'll talk to him. We'll explain that Earth really can be friends with them. Come on."
but upon approaching the shaggy beast,
Yeah, the gorilla reacts and pounds its chest and roars at them.
Diving dolphins. He no Martian, he real jungle gorilla.
And we'd better stay out of his way.
then alone once more in their haunts along jungle trails, the 3 friends watch at a parting light in the darkening skies.
Our 3 heroes looking up at the sky as they walk along. Jano saying,
What will they think back at the coast town when we tell them about this?
"They'll think nothing, because we won't tell about it. After all, who would believe us? They'd say we were mad. This is a story of the jungles that shall never be told." And a small caption reads,
The end.
Now, your reasoning for us doing this back in the day, when you first postulated it, was that because this was set in the 50s and technically quite close to the Golden Age, that maybe this was an Earth 2 story suggesting this was the Earth 2 Gorilla City,
Yes.
because it doesn't involve Gorilla Grodd or the big chap. What's his name? Starts with an S.
Solivar.
That's him. God bless him.
Yes.
But of course, Congo Bill will return on the podcast before too long, and we will see that he's probably most definitely an Earth 1 guy. So, but yes, it's another Gorilla City. Yes.
Yes.
Which is a nice spin on Legacy, etc.
Mm-hmm. I think there is an Earth 2 Congo Bill as well.
Probably.
Genuinely, because he was in Action Comics.
Yes.
Let's say there are 2.
Yes, this is an untold adventure of that Congo Bill or
Yes.
something. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm not convinced by Bill's huge leaps of logic towards the end there.
Very 1950s leaps of logic.
Oh, they're from Mars. What?
Yes.
I just thought 2 moons might have been another way of them sort of expressing 2 moons meant 2 nights.
Okay.
They didn't want to be here longer than 2 days. When I first read it in Pret, that's what I thought that the gorilla was meaning.
Okay, yes, in their own parlance. I like that. Yeah, that works. Yeah.
So I'm slightly sceptical of it's gorillas flying off in a space rocket, but that's what I'm not sceptical about. I'm sceptical about Bill asserting that they're from Mars.
Yeah, especially considering we know there are Martians on Earth 1 and on Earth 2, well, on Mars 1 and Mars 2, let's call it that.
Oh, I like it.
Because we have covered both of them.
Coming soon, the Mars 2 podcast.
Yes.
Where we chart all the different versions of Mars that have appeared in DC Comics over the years.
Listeners, do you want to hear this? We can do a spin-off.
Maybe we'll do it after we do Dilates for Hero and Challenges of the Unknown.
Maybe one day we'll do a Patreon and it'll be the Mars 2 podcast.
Yes, as well as the Earth 2 podcast.
Where we do it wearing ballerina skirts.
Who's to say that we're not wearing them right now?
Our YouTube watchers.
This is true.
Yes.
This is true. Let's wave to
Let's
our
wave
YouTube
them.
viewers.
Waving now.
You're both waving simultaneously. That's nice. Anyway, back to the story. That was great fun.
Oh, yeah.
After we did the first couple of stories we did with the character who's coming up next, I immediately wanted to do lots more stories with that character, and I would love to do some more Congo Bill stories.
Yes.
That was great fun.
I'll do my utmost to try and find more.
Yeah, maybe perhaps where he meets someone called the Sandman or the Incredible Hulk or or he meets a fiddler.
Of course. When was the first time you came across Congo Bill? Because I don't think we've had him in the show before.
I'm not sure, actually. It probably just flicking through this book and I bought it.
Yeah. I think for me it was the Forgotten Heroes.
Right.
When he was in that. Or maybe it might have been in the Whatever Happened To strip in DC Comics. In fact, yeah, it would have been DC Comics Presents Whatever Happened to Congo Bill.
Well, because you were reading DC Comics in the 80s, much, in the early 80s especially, much more than I was. I wasn't reading them at all. Most of my early 80s comic collection is Marvel. So I think it must just been flicking through this, and he's not a character I know terribly much about or have read very much about. Does he become like a golden gorilla thing at some point? Because was there not a... Did he turn up in an issue of Swamp Thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole thing with Congorilla, and it's like a different body, and they do a mind swap thing with it, and he's in the body of Congorilla.
Right.
And
that's probably what I'm thinking of then.
And remember, of course, they were both in James Robinson's Justice League run.
Sure.
Along with Mikael Starman.
And the Guardian and Monel. What a brilliant Justice League lineup that was, honestly. And it lasted for like 3 issues or something.
Oh, no,
how depressing. I know. Anyway, yes, this story has made me want to go and read some more Congo Bill. I'm pretty sure he gets reprinted in some of the Tarzan 100-pagers.
Well, the Jungle Adventure was a huge trope at the time and a very popular kind of character. Congo Bill actually had a movie serial.
Gosh.
Which I've tracked down. I've not actually watched it yet. But
I'll have to see then if I can find some posters from that to put on the socials this week.
I'm sure we'll find something, yes. But yeah, very entertaining. As I said, the Jungle Adventure, there's loads and loads. Obviously, the most famous one is Tarzan.
Of course, yeah.
But there's loads of Jungle Adventures.
Johnny obviously echoes Mowgli or whoever you want to, reference that sort of thing, the Jungle Boy sort of thing. Yeah. Obviously, yes. Looking at the Tarzan 100 pages, Congo Bill is reprinting a few of them. That's right. That's so. I have a few to hand then. I don't know, are kids still fascinated by jungle stories anymore? I don't think they are.
No, not anymore. No,
well, it's sad.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Oh, well.
One sad aspect of the changes in our society. But anyway, any further thoughts on this story?
No, just it was really enjoyable. I liked how they had earthly-like technology, but they were obviously far more advanced. I mean, as you said, it does look like a wind-up alarm clock.
Yeah, the fact they want to interview him for the press, which means that gorillas live on Mars and have a thriving media, or physical media. It's fascinating. Like, I want some more stories of these Martian gorillas, Grant Morrison, if you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I need to do a complete somehow read of Congo Bill and find out exactly what was going on these other stories.
Gorillas of Mars, so there's like a title
Edgar
of
Rice
something.
Burroughs, can you imagine?
Great. I'm imagining right now.
Do they have gorillas? Oh, there's the white apes, of course.
Of course, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that was an allusion to those.
Listeners, Chuck, what do you think? Write in and let us know.
So, Gorilla City, home of Gorilla Grodd, who will appear in our forthcoming coverage of Secret Society of Supervillains. And our third story this week, when I said before that I was really jonesing to read some more Congo Bill, the character I was referring to from an earlier episode was, after we first read some stories featuring Mark Merlin, I really wanted to read some more Mark Merlin, so I did, and he has appeared, I think, in 2 episodes previously to this, and now he's going to turn up again as we read the cover story from House of Secrets number 57, published on the 20th of September 1962. Peter will now tell us about the cover.
In the corner, Superman National Comics DC button, 12 cents, House of Secrets.
Number 57, December, approved by the Comics Code Authority. Now, the main image on the cover, we're in a fairly darkened room, but there's obviously a light source because one of the walls is illuminated yellow. There are 3 people standing there. It's some sort of laboratory, it looks like, because there's a table with a strange kind of like light bulb equipment, some other pointy glass valve equipment, it looks like. There are 3 people standing there, one of whom is Mark Merlin, the other one is a man in a lab coat, and of course there is Mark Merlin's trusty sidekick, Elsa, and there's a light source coming from the lab table, and it's casting shadows of these 3 people on the walls. The scientist and Elsa's look like normal shadows. However, Elsa comments on Mark's shadow.
Mark, your shadow! It's taken on a life of its own, and it's threatening us!
And sure enough, Mark's shadow is giant. It seems to be leaning forward off of the wall. It's turned a strange purple colour, and it's reaching out towards Mark. My goodness.
Gasp.
What terrible power forced Mark Merlin to expose Earth to the invasion from the Shadow World?
Only one way to find out, but before we read this story, Peter, why are we doing this particular Mark Merlin story? Peter's glad I asked.
I'm very glad you asked, yes, as will the listeners be, because one of the main characters in Secret Society of Supervillains number 1, I can't stress how important he is to the plot, is the villain called Shadow Thief, who is a Hawkman villain. Shadow Thief actually fascinates me genuinely because he's this guy who got a device that can basically turn him into a living shadow, basically by fooling around with dimensions. And every time he uses it, it could cause the destruction of the world.
Oh, heck.
But he likes to rob banks and stuff, so that's fine.
Gosh.
It's hilarious. It is genuinely hilarious. I love it. It's wonderful. So yes, he's one of the founding members of the Secret Society of Supervillains.
Gosh.
And when else are we going to get to talk about Shadow Thief? Yay.
This is true.
Uh-huh.
As you know, I mean, I haven't read an awful lot of Hawkman, and I do remember buying issue 1 of the Shadow War of Hawkman whilst on holiday.
Oh, yeah.
And many, many years later, getting the whole series, because for a long time, I always felt really sorry for that little man with the cat who got blasted and zapped and was just left as a shadow residue on a wall.
Oh,
and I've never got over it, quite frankly, as you can tell. Listeners, if you do a Hawkman podcast and you fancy doing Shadow War of Hawkman and getting me on to talk about the trauma of reading issue 1, then I'll be up for it.
Yes, Tim Board, if you go back to your Hawkman podcast, let us know.
Very much so. Right. Into the story then, we begin a large splash image with Mark Merlin, Sleuth of the Supernatural, at the top. It's a very busy opening splash panel, but before we get to the description, Peter wants to read us a caption.
What is your shadow? Is it just a silhouette of your living form, or can a shadow have life itself? Mark Merlin learned the terrifying answer when he found that he had to fight a part of himself if he were to save civilization from the invader from the Shadow World.
So this large splash image, there's quite a lot going on. We appear to be in some kind of underground laboratory basement type situation. There's lots of scientific equipment around, but there's also a large flume coming out of a large box which is open and flames are burning out of it. It's an oven. We see Mark Merlin looking very smart in bow ties there with Elsa. There's also a chap in a white lab coat in front of them. He's holding some glowing purple matter in a set of tongs. Mark is trying to reason with him, it seems. He's crying,
Frank, put that back into the oven before it's too late. You don't realise the terror it might unleash.
Frank, presumably the scientist chap who has his back to us, replies, What's come over you, Mark? What are you talking about? Because he's obviously not worried by the deep purple glow. And we must point out that Mark and Elsa are both casting long shadows across the wall of this underground, it seems, laboratory. It may not be underground, it just looks like it's underground. We can't see any windows. Mark, to my eye, looks like the guy that plays the captain in the Doctor Who story, The Web of Fear.
Okay.
Anyway, a slow dissolve then, into the story properly, the caption at the top of page 2, panel 1.
In the laboratory of famed scientist Dr. Frank Gunther, Mark Merlin and his assistant Elsa listen raptly.
Mark and Elsa are looking on as Dr. Frank Gunther is showing them around his laboratory. He's gesturing at equipment on lab benches, and we can see all sorts of interesting stuff all around the room. Frank is saying, And so, after years of intensive work, I have almost succeeded in solving the problem of producing black light.
Congratulations, Frank. You started working on it when you were in college, didn't you?
Dr. Gunther is standing next to a weird sort of gun projection device which appears to have some kind of bulb in the nozzle as he replies, Yes, black light is a term scientists have used for centuries to mean something that actually absorbs light, and I've produced such a ray. Watch.
As Dr. Gunther flips a switch, a strange whine fills the air, and then...
Yeah, the gun device on a little tripod activates and a beam of solid black energy, or light, emanates from it, very reminiscent of some stuff we've seen from Phantom Lady. Mark comments,
Marvellous. Wherever the ray appears, all light is absorbed. You've really done it, Frank.
Yeah, because the solid black light basically means that we can't see anything that this light is shining over. It's just solid darkness. Frank replies, Not quite, Mark. There's something wrong with one element of my invention.
Suddenly...
And we see that the black light seems to break up into sort of black and white ripples. Frank, looking very much like the dad from American Pie, with his thick frames and his slick back dark hair, leans forward saying, You see, it's breaking up already. I've never been able to sustain it for more than 5 seconds at a time. I often have that trouble. That's why I called you, Mark. Ever heard of Omal the Omniscient?
Of course. He was a great Persian scientist-magician of the 5th century. Say, didn't he try to create black light?
Exactly. But I could never find any reports by Omal himself. If he succeeded, his notes could tell me what I've done wrong. Anyway, I'm already at work, attempting to perfect the material involved in that oven. And he points at an oven. We see Dell's in the front. There's a window inside, flames burning. Mark, Frank and Elsa, who is still there despite the fact she hasn't said a word yet. They're lit by a warm orange glow, as Mark says.
Well, if such a document exists, it might be in my library. Let's see if I can cook up something faster than you can.
There's a slow dissolve and a caption.
Later, Mark and Elsa drive up to his mansion, set upon the brooding crest known as Mystery Hill.
Mystery Hill, of course, sported menswear, I believe in 1995. There's another slow dissolve and another caption.
And soon after they enter the library, boasting the world's largest collection of documents on the supernatural,
we see Mark up a ladder. Elsa watching instead of footing the ladder, which is what she should have done. Maybe there's something at the bottom to stop the ladder from slipping. Maybe it's on the rail. Please be careful on ladders, listeners. Mark has pulled out a couple of sheets of paper. Elsa looks up, saying, "Did you find it, Mark? Mark, what's wrong?"
These two half-burned pieces of parchment are an account of Omal's experiments. Elsa, we've got to warn Frank to stop his work immediately.
Quickly, Mark phones the lab, but
he doesn't answer. We've got to get over there without a moment to spare. If he removes that thing from the oven, it'll be too late for all of us.
And shortly outside the lab,
see Mark and Elsa. Mark battering on the door. From inside we hear a large sound effect. They're not getting an answer. Frank isn't coming to the door. Mark says,
"He can't hear me. A machine's running in there that drowns out my knocking. I've got to crash the door in."
Again and again, Mark slams his shoulder against the door, until finally
the door flies open with a crash. Mark and Elsa burst into the room and see Frank. Well, we're where we are in the opening splash image. A silhouetted form of Frank holding up a glowing purple element with a tong. Frank is saying, "Mark, you're just in time. I created the crystal that will perfect my invention."
"Too late! Put it back, Frank! You don't know what you've done! Put it back!"
But as the scientist stands paralyzed with shock and confusion, Mark rushes in, seizes the tongs to return the glowing crystal.
Yes, Mark has grabbed the tongs and is trying to shove the purple element back into the roaring, burning, flaming oven. Mark is bathed in a wall of purple light as he says,
"Ah! The light from the oven, shining through the crystal. I can feel it hitting me. Oh! Inflicting such terrible pain."
Gosh.
With a determined effort, Mark slams shut the oven door.
Yes, he does slam it shut because there is a
slam
sound effect. Mark, trying to recover his wits, is saying,
"I tried to warn you. I found 2 pieces of Omal's document. The first said, I've perfected black light. The second, I've discovered photium crystals, but they released a terrible thing from another world."
Mark rubs his forehead in the next panel.
"I don't know what form this thing took, but when that light hit me, I almost passed out. I still feel very weak."
Elsa finally gets another line as she registers her concern, saying, "You've got to get some rest and... oh no! Mark! Look on the floor! Your shadow!" In the next panel, we see Mark's shadow has grown to a massive size. It's at least 3 or 4 times the size of the other shadows. And as Pete said when he described the cover, it's turned purple, obviously influenced by the element. Frank, the scientist, says, "Great Scott! Your shadow's purple, but it should be black."
And look, it started to move, independent of me. This is what Omal warned us about.
Yes, because we see that Mark has one arm sort of by his side and he's pointing with the other, but the shadow looks as if it's waving both arms above its head. Mark gets a very dynamic close-up at the top of page 5.
That thing in my shadow is alive! It must have come from some world of formless, two-dimensional beings. It can only enter our world when light filtered by a photium crystal passes through a human body.
Oh my goodness!
I don't have a shadow anymore. That thing stole it. That's what it wanted, some kind of form.
The 3 of them looking on as the shadow continues to twist and move, with Frank saying, "Those rays passing through your body must have made it penetrable to all light rays. And look, the shadow has left the wall." And indeed it has. Terrifyingly, the shadow has peeled itself off and is moving through thin air. It rears up to a further giant size in the next panel. Good grief! It has enormous power and can concentrate and focus rays to make the wall crumble. Yes, and it appears to actually have moved outside the building here. Now, it's not very clear, but the shadow is now enormous, and little bolts of purple energy are coming from its left hand. There is a massive boom sound effect as it strikes the building. We see all sorts of rubble flying around. Mark has a line.
"There may be a way to stop it. Get to my car."
And
moments later,
all 3 of them are outside. Beside Mark's car, we see the giant shadow floating in front of them, as Mark says,
"This spotlight might be the answer."
Yep, and he's rigged a spotlight on the roof of the car, but it's shining a massive beam up into the sky.
"We'll deal with it like any shadow. Try to destroy it with light. Look, it's fleeing, but I'll get it."
Yeah, we see the shadow trying to move away. Mark directs the spotlight, and it strikes the shadow, with Mark saying,
"I hit it, but it wasn't destroyed. Light isn't the answer, Frank. We've got to warn the authorities. This thing can cause a lot of trouble.
But even as the alarm goes out...
We see that the shadow, moving independently, has reached a large dam, and it's gesturing with both hands. Bursts of purple energy have created a hole in the dam with water running out, and we see that there's a selection of houses built very close by,
Yes.
very carelessly. People are running away from the houses, with one of them saying,
The dam was in its way, so it destroyed it.
there's a quick dissolve,
And again.
and we see a car speeding along a road, and the shadow causing trouble by striking the bottom of a large power line, which falls over, causing chaos, and someone in the car cries,
Look out! It toppled that power line.
Meanwhile, at an emergency headquarters set up to track the rampaging shadow menace...
oh, wow. That's the best caption ever, honestly. Going to say that again for me, just so I can hear it again.
Meanwhile, at an emergency headquarters set up to track the rampaging shadow menace...
Imagine having to get hold of some people. Imagine having to phone round. Got a shadow menace? You busy tonight? Can we use your kitchen for the headquarters? Yeah, that's all right. Anyway, we see Mark and Frank and Elsa, and there's a chap on a radio headset with a microphone and some scientific equipment, a huge map of the world on the wall, and what appears to be a senior military official. The senior military official has a stick. He's pointing at the map of the world and saying,
The shadow creature has left our mainland and is crossing the ocean, taking this route.
which prompts Mark to say,
You see where it's headed? The land that was once called Persia, the home of Omel, the Omniscient.
But why, Mark? Asks Frank.
I'm not sure, but I've got a hunch. We're going after it, Frank, and I want you to bring all the materials of your recent experiments.
Oh my goodness.
Later, as a chartered jet speeds over the Middle East...
Yes, we see the plane flying over mountains, and from inside the plane, a voice says,
There it is! Just what I feared. A mountain of pure photium. I knew that Omel must have found a natural source of the crystal.
yes, and we see a large purple crystal mountain. Is Amethyst going to make her first pre-crisis appearance? Who can say? And Frank replies, And the shadow thing came here to expose the deposit. But why, Mark? What's it after? We see the giant shadow is flying around in the vicinity, striking the ground, making people run about in panic. There's your answer, Frank, says Elsa, finally getting a line. It's driving those people toward the mountain of Photium. Of course, yes, that's where the silhouettes are all running. One of the people seems to have a cape. Interesting. If they're hit by light from the crystal, they'll release more shadow dangers. Right, Mark? And Frank replies, Yes, Elsa. And we have no way to reverse the situation. Of course, that's what it's doing. It's driving all the people up towards the crystal mountain so that the light will hit them and create more shadow demons. I see. Inside the plane, Mark turns to Frank.
Reverse? That may be the key. Why didn't I think of it? Frank, how long will it take to assemble your black light gun?
Not long, Mark. Of course, I'd have to load the crystals in darkness or risk releasing another shadow creature.
And shortly, in a darkened compartment...
Yes, silhouetted forms of Frank and Mark. Frank saying, Bad news, Mark. The Photium crystals I synthesized were unstable. 2 have turned to sand, and the one that's left may not last long.
Never mind. Slip it into the black light gun. I'll have to take my chances.
Some time passes, a caption reads,
No sooner does the plane land than Mark races out on his solo mission.
Yes, we see Mark running along with a backpack full of dials and knobs and displays connected to the blacklight gun, which he's holding in his right hand. We can see that purple crystal mountain behind him. Mark is thinking.
I'm the only one who can safely stand in front of it. The Photium crystal stole all they can from me.
We see the shadow creature hovering above some of the locals as Mark approaches, and he's thinking,
Those 2 torn pieces of parchment were the key. Omel was trying to say that he accidentally released a shadow from the crystal and then searched for black light to destroy it. But I unwittingly reversed the order.
The shadow creature gestures and a burst of purple energy rushes from its hand to strike the ground. Mark cries to the locals,
You people, run for your lives! I'll handle this!
and run they do.
Swiftly, the monstrous menace which was once part of him darts towards Mark, and...
Mark fires the black ray gun at it, and it strikes the creature on his right arm, which shatters. Mark thinks,
It worked! The black light destroyed part of it. Hope the unstable crystal holds out.
creature moves down towards Mark, who fires again.
It's almost done for, but the ray is beginning to give out.
Yes, we see again the creature shatters further, and the ray is starting to wobble wibbly like it did earlier on. And then Mark has just enough juice in the machine to fire again in the final panel of page 8.
I did it! And that's all the ray had left before petering out.
After Mark fires, the creature breaks up into lots of small purple fragments. There's a slow dissolve and we arrive at the top of page 9.
When Mark rejoins the others,
we see the silhouetted forms of Mark, Elsa, and Dr. Frank, with Elsa saying, "Mark, you did it!" And then Frank says, "Yes, but the job's not finished yet. We must dispose of that mountain of Fodium crystal forever. But dynamiting it would only create millions of small crystals."
I've got the answer, Frank, but I'll need your help.
preparations are swiftly made, and then...
We see, presumably the same jet, flying over the Crystal Mountain range, and someone is dropping a massive quantity of what looks like shiny black and red and yellow dust from out the bottom of the plane that cascades over the purple crystals. From inside the plane we hear Frank asking, "How can that red power destroy the Fodium?"
The answer becomes apparent soon after the pair return.
Yes, we see again, very lazy if you ask me, the silhouetted forms of our three heroes as Mark, Elsa and Frank look on, and we see, under a massive sound effect, bursts of pink and red light dancing all over the purple crystal mountains, as Elsa says, "It's crumbling, Mark. The whole mountain is falling apart. But how'd you do it?"
Frank told me that the crystals he'd created were unstable because of a specific mineral he used by mistake. So we bombarded the mountain with that mineral. That made the whole mountain unstable, and now it's turned to harmless sand.
Yes, we see that where the mountains were, there's now a huge pile of golden sand. What appears to be steam coming off it or something. Must be some further chemical exchange. As Elsa brings things to a close as she says, "But that's not the most wonderful thing of all. Look, Mark, you've got your own shadow back." And a small caption reads,
The end.
In the next issue, a spectacular story featuring Mark Merlin's origin and the first and weirdest case he ever encountered.
Yes, it's going to be like the prologue to the newest recent Conjuring movie when he's going to be played by a different actor who looks an awful lot like him.
There we are.
Indeed. Well, that was interesting, and it felt vaguely coherent.
Yeah, it's great fun. A lot of fun. I love these sort of stories. Mark Merlin, Roy Raymond, all these like fantastic professional adventurers almost.
Mm-hmm.
They're a staple of comics at this time, and it's just great fun.
It really is. Yeah, DC, give us a DC finest of Mark Merlin and Roy Raymond, please.
Oh, yeah.
Because we would both buy it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, again, poor thankless task for Elsa. Probably could have got her stand-in to do some of her shots for this episode. Frank, a bit careless and not really, I feel,
Yes, caught up in all the science, thinking, "Oh, look at what I'm doing." Yes.
causing absolute havoc. And it was very lucky that Mark's library happened to have just what they were looking for.
I'm very jealous of Mark's library. It's one of these classic libraries you only really see on television, where it's like floor-to-ceiling stacks and the revolving ladder that goes all the way around.
It's what I aspire
great.
to
I know
in
it's
this
what we
room.
all aspire to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. But obviously, he must have a good filing system because he can find those 2 pages dead easily.
Yeah, I mean, loose pages like that, you'd think they would probably just be in a folder or something, or maybe a box file.
In another book, to keep them nice and flat, and then you forget where you put them. It's just the story of my life. But yes.
Yes, this new thing called keeping things in alphabetical order is very useful.
Yes, I do try to, but then I have to put things away because I have 2 cats and lock things in rooms so they can't get at them.
Gee whiz.
Anyway, but yeah, great fun, terrific fun. I love the giant purple shadow just flying about the place, zapping things.
Yeah, and it seems to obviously have some kind of reasoning intelligence because it has a plan and it knows what it wants to achieve. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I was disappointed it wasn't a scene where it sort of spoke to our heroes and sort of said,
Yeah.
"How you, I'm going to do this, by the way," or something.
Shadow's Scottish. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Aren't all shadows Scottish? Listeners,
think
what do
so.
you think? What nationality is your shadow?
I was quite satisfied with this one. I mean, it's quite lucky that they were able to get the mineral that they needed at sort of short notice.
Yes.
Before the creature was able to cause more havoc.
Yes, good that it was on hand.
And I was very amused at the scene of them operating in the dark.
Yeah. Do you not think that Mark's backpack and gun combo is very much like the proton packs from Ghostbusters?
I can see a similarity, yes, very much so.
Like a 1950s version of it.
Sure.
With the big dials and the ray gun style.
And it was so handy that they were able to rig that up so quickly as well. That's my only fault, these sort of comics, is that when they're able to just jury rig either a headquarters or equipment like this out of nowhere. It's not quite as bad as Martian Manhunter's tape recorder.
Yes.
But it's still fun.
Or that thing that John Pertwee made with the wine bottle and the spoons and stuff. And what episode was that again?
Time Monster.
Time Monster, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Classic.
Hilarious.
Absolute classic. Nice to do another Mark Merlin story, it really must be said. It'd be good if we're able to find some other reason of covering him at some point.
It's funny that they're doing the origin story next. We might check that out, actually, and see if we can tie that in somehow later on. Further down the line, in the fullness of time.
Maybe, who can say, on that bombshell.
Listeners, do you want us to do more Mark Merlin stories?
Well, we both do. We just need to find a reason to do them. So, listeners, perhaps you could suggest some link-themed episodes that we could do that would justify us digging back into the Mark Merlin archives.
And of course, you would contact us by emailing us at theearth2podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on social media, because we're putting up some lovely bonus material for this and indeed every episode. On Facebook, Instagram and Blue Sky, we're at the Earth2 Podcast. And on Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2, and it's the number 2 for all of our socials.
It certainly is. As I will say at this point, if you're enjoying the show and you're feeling generous, please consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcasts and leaving us a positive review, or going to our coffee page and buying us the price of a beverage. As Alan Palmer very kindly did for us recently, Alan has got in touch and said he'd listened to all of our episodes in the space of a year and a half. That's a huge level of commitment, Alan, and really, really appreciate it. Alan emailed us after having listened to our Spider-Man episode, which he enjoyed, but he thought it was a little undercooked.
I could only find 2 Spider-Men.
Alan, that was the only Spider-Man that we found, but Peter has something up his sleeve to do another episode with lots of characters who are just called Spider.
Yes, Spider-related characters. Yes,
we might do that in advance of the next Superman Spider-Man story, who can say?
Who can say, indeed. Alan also emailed us about our Superman Spider-Man episode, commenting that he bought his original Treasury edition back in 1976 on the stands.
Yeah, because he sort of speculates that he backed it at London Comic Mart or Darkly Wearing Golden-Eyed, which I think I've got one issue DC Comics Presents with a Darkly Wearing Golden-Eyed price sticker on it.
Really? Wow.
Yep. Alan, that's great. We appreciate that insight into comic fandom days past. Keep those sort of comments coming, please. That'd be great.
Yes, fantastic.
So, listeners, next week,
we
are not quite at the Secret Society of Supervillains. We have something else to do as a curtain raiser, and what that is, well, it's quite current in a way, isn't it?
It is. It does feature the Earth 2 podcast debut of a character who is wrapping up his TV series right now.
Yes.
As we speak.
So there. If that doesn't intrigue you, I'm not sure what will. So join us in 7 days on
the Earth 2 podcast.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
He doesn't answer. We've got to get over there without a moment to spare. If he removes that thing from the oven, it'll be too late for all of it. Don't make me laugh.
Gosh.
Okay, hang on. Again.
The pizza might not be cooked in time.